had been able to memorize what I was going to say today, but I didn't, so I wrote it down. If you guys could just give me a second, I promise I won't read the whole thing, but I want to thank you guys all for coming today. I've said it a lot since my dad passed away, but as much as he loved my mom and me and Amy and Jake and Sammy, his friends were the loves of his life. I mean, well, actually, golf was the love of his life. But after that, it was you guys. It was always you. I think that, like, being Larry Barnes's daughter, for me, was like the closest I'll ever get to what it was like to be a celebrity's daughter. It's not an exaggeration to say that my dad was a celebrity in his world. People think it's because he only had one leg, but I will tell you that I have a scrapbook from my Grandma Barnes documenting every moment of his life from the time he was born. So I'm inclined to think that my dad was actually born with that, like, it factor, that, like, X factor, you know, that forever. He was so charismatic, and he had a way of making everyone feel like a friend. There are a lot of ways to remember my dad: as a golfer, as a skier, as a dad, a husband, as a businessman, as a darn good drinker. But today I really want to focus on his true legacy, and I really do think that that was in being a friend. One of my dad's core beliefs was something that he said often, and that is, life is all about the high highs and the low lows. As you guys know, my family has had its share of low lows, from my dad's cancer battles to my sister's cancer battle and eventual death, from fire at PFC, which was really devastating to him. Sometimes it really would make my mom and I mad when my dad would say that life is all about the high highs and the low lows, and without the other, you wouldn't have the other, because it felt like what he was saying is these awful things that had happened to us were somehow destined to have happened. And that was hard to hear, you know? And it really did. It took me not just losing Amy, which was so hard, and not just going through more cancer battles with my dad. It's when when my marriage ended, when my grandma died, and then when my dad died, I understood it. At a time when I could be so low, I understood what he meant. And we've had a lot of lows in the past couple of years. But the thing that can make me smile today is that, and the thing that I know that kept my dad smiling through the lows, was that I know that something's good's on the horizon. After my dad passed, we found a file folder in a box.
Best file folder.
And on the tab, it said highlights of the best life ever. And so some of that, the things that you see on the tables today, those listings of the things that are the highlights of my dad's life, that's not something that we compiled. That's something that my dad wrote himself, and that he felt were the highlights of his life. And I will say that until the day he died, literally, no matter what he was going through, he truly did believe that he had had the best life ever. So I mentioned the things on the table. I do just want to take a moment to thank Abby for everything that she did to put today together, and my Uncle Junior. My mom and I could have never done this on our own. And I'd like to thank the poorhouse and everybody who contributed food today, and everybody here at home, even though we don't live here anymore. For my mom and I, today was really
Still home. It's still home.
Until we said goodbye to my dad with you guys, it wasn't really real.
Yeah.
And so, I have more. Don't worry. Don't worry. Another thing that we found in the file folder that my dad had was this Post-it note. And written on the Post-it note, in his own handwriting, it said, "I believe friends are quiet angels who lift us to our feet when our wings have trouble remembering how to fly." I'm just going to say it again really quickly.
Yeah.
I believe that friends are quiet angels who lift us to our feet when our wings have trouble remembering how to fly. My mom definitely feels like this is a message that my dad left for her.
I feel like that's a message.
And I think maybe it's because he had his first bout with cancer and didn't know if he would live or die as a teenager, but I think that he really learned the truth in those words as a kid, and he spent the rest of his life with an appreciation for friendship that fueled the legacy that he left behind. I was with my dad when he passed away. I was spending the night I was spending the night, and they say that when you die, your life flashes before your eyes, and before my dad died, my life with him flashed before my eyes, and I hope that what he saw was as beautiful as what I saw. In those chaotic last moments, I remembered a time when I was home visiting, and I'm sure a lot of you guys remember Jim Clark, and when Jim was in hospice. As much as my dad, and we've talked a lot about how much my dad loved to party, but as much as he loved to party, he would be there for his friends when the chips were down, and if you were going through a battle or you were in the hospital, he made sure to visit you, and Jim was in hospice at the time, and he was nearing the end. And my dad said, "We're gonna stop by and see Jowls." And I didn't know how close to the end of his life he was. And we walked in the door, and my dad, just in typical Larry Barnes mode, he just exclaimed, "Jowls!" And Jim couldn't speak at the time, but he saw my dad, and his eyes just lit up, and he was so happy. And my dad talked to him for a few minutes, and I kind of put myself off into the corner because I didn't really feel like that this was mine to witness. But I'm so lucky that I did. And my dad sat down on the side of his bed, and he put his hand on his chest, and then he caressed his face, and he got really close to Jim's ear, and he sang him his favorite song. And on that night that my dad was passing away, there were about 10 doctors and nurses in the room, and there was lots of chaos going on, and all of a sudden, one of the nurses was in front of me, and she said, "It's time. It's time. He's going. And so you should go up there if there's anything that you want to say or anything." And I was so panicked. I didn't know what to do. And I remembered, though, in that moment, my dad and what he had done for Jim that day. And so I went up to my dad's head, and he was in a lot of pain, so I had to be really careful, but I caressed his face, and I leaned in really closely, and I sang him his favorite song until he was gone. And There are going to be a lot of, somewhere written out, we have, my dad's favorite song was a song called Shine On by George Jones. And the ironic thing about that song is it's actually a song about a woman who was like a celebrity in her own world. Like outside of her world, nobody knew her, but inside her world, she was a celebrity. And that was my dad. Music was a really big part of how my dad liked to celebrate, and for years and years and years, a lot of years, you know, I mean, somebody who's had 6 cancer diagnoses has probably put a little thought into what he wants to happen when he dies.
Yeah.
And so he, a long time ago, decided that his funeral song was the song Spirit in the Sky. And so I'm sure that we'll play a lot of songs tonight that will remind us of my dad. But as we end right now, I'd just like everybody to raise a glass, and we're going to play Spirit in the Sky. We're going to get up and dance. Get up and dance. That was what he would definitely like. But thank you all. Thank you all for coming and for everything you've meant to us.